We are from Maastricht, we're an information platform for students coming from outside the city and outside Europe, even, or whoever comes to Maastricht, and we provide all the information you need for your studies. My name is Thomas. I work for the university as a team leader for student integration, and my Maastricht was one of my first projects. And I work together with lovely Fran and Maria, who will guide you through the presentation. And with us are also Judith and Lisa from the International Student Help Desk. They provide sort of offline service to what we're doing, where they give one-on-one support to administrative questions, but they will also introduce themselves in a bit.
Okay, great. I'll go first. So just a quick introduction. So like Thomas said, my name is Fran. For those of you who heard the conversation from before, I am from Argentina originally. I grew up in Dubai though, so I lived there for like 10 years. This is my third year in Maastricht, and I've been working with my Maastricht. We'll explain what we do in a little bit now, but I've been working with my Maastricht for about 2 years now. But yeah, it's the third year of my bachelor's. I study law, and yeah, we hope you guys enjoy the presentation.
Okay, so I guess I'm the third one. So I work with Thomas and Fran at my Maastricht. I'm from Spain. I'm 20 years old, and right now I'm doing second year of European law. So the same as Fran, but a year before. And within my Maastricht, I work for basically running all the social media. So if you ever see like a post, a story, or write a message to any of our social media, I will be the person behind the screen.
Nice. Okay, so just quickly about this webinar, we're looking at around 45 to 60 minutes of the presentation, including your questions. So we'll answer questions throughout as well. Like Thomas said, it is recorded and it will be available on our platforms later. So on our YouTube, and we'll give you the information later on as well. And you can see at the bottom all our social medias and the YouTube, etc. You can use the Q&A function to ask us any questions. We prefer the Q&A function. It's a lot easier to address them than the chat. So if you guys could stick to that, that would be great. And yeah, they will be picked up either by Thomas, Judith, or Lisa, or if they're important enough for everybody else and relevant enough, then they'll be relayed to Maria and myself, and we'll answer them live, like a spoken word as opposed to written word. And we do ask that you only give us your general questions, nothing related to your faculty or university or even COVID. We're not really official providers of university info. We're more about lifestyle in Maastricht, moving to the city, the administrative stuff. And the COVID stuff just changes quite often, and it's no longer that relevant in the Netherlands, at least for the time being. So we also stay away from that topic if possible.
Okay, let's quickly give Judith and Lisa the chance to introduce themselves as well.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No problem, thank you. I'm Judith, and I work for the International Student Help Desk, which is a physical location in Maastricht, and we help international students with any questions they have, or for example, if they need translations for from Dutch letters to English, for example, from the government, or need help filing their taxes, stuff like that. We help with everything. We have an email address as well, but we're also physically located in Maastricht in the Student Service Center, and we're open from Monday to Friday. I will drop our website and in the comments as well in the chat, so you can find any information about us as well there.
Yes, and I'm Lisa. I'm 23 years old right now. It's going fast. Yeah, I'm also working at the Student Service Center, which Judith just explained. So I'll be here for all your questions. So yeah, nice to see that you're here.
Okay, I guess we can continue with the presentation. Right? Yeah, only 2 people. Okay. So here we have an overview also with the topics we're going to cover. And this is just an outline so you can have an idea. We will start telling you all the advices and tips you need to know when looking for accommodation. We know you have many questions and we will cover all of them. We will also continue because we also think it's really important with the life in Maastricht, so more on the social aspect, the transport, and everything that this student city has to offer. Thirdly, but not less important, we will also talk about jobs. So many questions around jobs, such as, is it Dutch required to work here? and many other questions will be answered. And also some tips that you need to know when living in Maastricht regarding your health insurance. So I expect you to have just enjoy this presentation.
Great. Okay, so quickly, before we get into the actual content, we keep talking about this thing, My Maastricht. Well, what is it? It's a website. The idea is that we are the one-stop information platform to help all new students and even old students, sort of people that have already been here for a while, to settle and find their feet in the city and just figure things out in Maastricht. So we try to provide information on topics ranging from administrative matters, financial subsidies, opening a bank account, all the way to finding the best drinks in town and the best spots and things like this. So the project was created by students for students. Well, Maria and myself, we're sort of like, I write the content on the website. Maria's doing our social media. Thomas used to also be a student at Maastricht University. We're all students here, so it's sort of from the student perspective, which is nice. We're also supported by Maastricht University, Zoid University, and the gemeente, which is the municipality here in Maastricht. So our information is also legit, let's say. So yeah, that's a little bit about us.
Okay, so you have probably heard about My Maastricht from social media, but we actually, as Fran explained, have a beautiful website. So this is how it looks like when you enter, and you can search for every topic we cover, from transport to finances to community, as you can see. So we have like 8 main topics in which you can like travel through them and you will find all the answers. And we also have a section in which we have the most popular topics at the moment. So for example, if it's taxes or if it's housing now, we always post the most important information. Yeah, so yeah, I think I'll advise you to go and check it out for sure. Okay, so one of the tips we always give to people is to check the city map. We actually have one in the same website, so you should go and check everything that's there. We talk about many things and about many places you should visit. But when talking about housing, it's important to have in mind that this is a map. So Maastricht is divided, let's say, in 2 parts and has a river in the middle. And when looking for housing, it's a good start to kind of check where your faculty is. And from that point, start searching through that area, the accommodation. But it's not a problem if you end up living a bit far away, because at the end, this looks a bit farther away, but it's not. It's really like 10 minutes by bike or less from one part to the other. So for example, if you think about studying in some faculties such as FASOs, like the Arts and Social Science, or the Applied Science, or sorry, Law or Conservatorium, then you should look more in Centrum, maybe Brussels Sport or Staten Vertier. And then if you, for example, go more to Zoid on the Upper West side there, you can look for more accommodation more in that area, Brussels Sport and that, but it's really not that important, but just to keep it in mind. And then if you go more to psychology, neurosciences, or health, and all of that is situated on the right side, so you can search everything Randvik or Vik, and there are also many like student places to find. So yeah, just keep in mind that it's important to have kind of this starting point to like locate yourself in the map, and from there just start looking for housing.
Just to add a little bit to the map on our website, we have different sections with sort of categories that you guys might be interested in. For example, the university buildings, the library, the SSC, the Student Services Center are on there. So you can sort of select options. So you can check where the faculties are, but you can also check where the best student bars are, for example, as well, if you're interested in living close to those. So it's a really great tool. We worked on it a lot, like asking students to send their recommendations and updating it. And so yeah, it's also great to just check where you might be interested in living. So.
And we actually got a first question on this topic, and somebody asked about the neighborhoods and about their sort of vibe, or like who kind of lives there. What can you tell about that?
I think, okay, so I will let Maria discuss her neighborhood, because you live in one of the top, like the best, like in the sense that there's the most students there. I live quite centrally. I love it because the center is quite historic. And so it's really like just pleasant to walk outside and see all these beautiful old buildings and to be really close to, like, for example, the library buildings and my own faculty. The thing about the center is that it gets quite busy, especially on weekends and on nice days. There's like so many people around, and it's also maybe like less spacious. Housing tends to be smaller, on the more expensive side, so there are pros and cons. But I would say every neighborhood has its pros and cons. There's no unsafe neighborhood, and I know people that live all over the city and they're all happy. So it just depends on what you're looking for. But I don't know, Maria, if you have anything to add.
No, I agree with you. I think the experience is going to be the same in all of them because they are really centric, even though here it doesn't seem to, but they are really centric. And at the end, it's all of Maastricht is full of students. So yeah, maybe I would say Randvik and gets like a bit farther away. So maybe there are no such nightlife or like restaurants or bars, but still I think it's a student city. So it's like in every corner you will find someone young and students.
You can generally say the closer it is to the city center, the more expensive it will be, but also the more is happening, of course. But Maria and Fran said, outside it's also great options, a bit cheaper. A lot of areas are just being renovated around the Groene Loper, which is like where the tunnel is going through, parallel to the Maas on the right side towards east. Lots of great options. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. All right, if there are no more questions on this section, we can move on. Perfect.
Okay, so let's dive in a bit more into housing. And to start with, we think it's important to have an overview of which are the main 3 alternatives that you need kind of to choose between. So first we have the dorms, which is basically a guest house offered by Maastricht Housing. It's kind of part of Maastricht University. And this is what you can expect from a dorm, what you see in movies, let's say. So like a corridor full of students, a huge kitchen in which you will share everything and every meal, every experience with them. So I think it's good if you're like new in the city, you really have like a full experience there and you start meeting people in 1 second. So it's really good. I personally live in a student house, so I think the second option is also quite good and the experience is similar, I would say. Normally there are less students as in a guest house, of course, but you can live with up to, I think, like 20 people at the end. So yeah, the kitchens are smaller. Maybe you need to share toilet with less people, a shower. But at the end, I would say that the experience is quite similar. And maybe you get more of independence in the sense that you don't live with such a quantity of people. And thirdly, but not less important, I think if we have independent accommodation, which is your own flat or like with your own kitchen, hot toilet and everything for you. And yeah, you have to keep in mind that this can be a bit pricey. So for example, here we have a picture from the student hotel, and if you really need to have your own kitchen, your own toilet and facilities, then it will be a bit expensive. But yeah, it's up to you really of what are your priorities and of what you need to for a living, let's say, at the end, and what's your budget, of course.
For sure. I mean, I lived at the student guest house, at the guest house, and yeah, it was also really hectic, a lot of people and everything, but also great for making friends. I would say if you're a first year student, then maybe don't go straight to independent accommodation, because definitely the people, at least a lot of people I know, and end up just being great friends with the people they live with. So if you're living alone, then you might miss out on a chance there. But I think, yeah, all these options are great.
Yeah, some people also decide to go for, like, for example, young guest house for the first period or first half year, and then move because they meet more people to student houses, rent something together with friends. So there are definitely a lot of options. Just got a question about safety. How do you perceive Maastricht in terms of safety?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to go first.
Yeah, from my point of view, quite a safe city, I would say. So I don't like, in comparison to Spain, at least where I lived, it's not such like dangerous to walk at night. It's really safe. You don't get catcalling. So yeah, I think it's, for me, safe. I mean, of course, you have always some experience. But yeah, what do you think?
I've never, like, I have sort of the two extremes in my background. So Argentina, like, not very safe, and then Dubai, which is like incredibly safe. And I would say it's definitely closer to the Dubai range. Like, I've walked around alone at night by myself, never felt unsafe at all. And like I said before, I don't think there are really neighborhoods that are less safe than others. It's all pretty uniform throughout the city. Yeah.
No, and because it's full of students. For me, at least, when you go out at night, you will find like 10 more people with the bike going to the same places you're going to.
Yeah.
Some general things, of course, keep your doors locked and windows when you leave the house, and lock your bike safely. Yeah, but for the rest, it's a very safe city.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, it's just be mindful of your bike. That's probably like, if there's gonna be crime, it's gonna be in relation to your bike. So yeah. Okay, so a little bit more detail about housing. First of all, I think this is kind of the one thing, if you have to take away one thing from this presentation, is that you need to start looking. If you know you're coming to Maastricht and you're starting school in September, you need to start looking for housing about now. So ideally, when this presentation finishes, you'll go to our website, you'll read our housing sections, you'll get all the information you need, and then you'll just deep dive into all the different housing options and the different websites that we're going to give you in a moment. So just to get you started on this whole journey of finding accommodation, we'll look at some 4 main options, sort of. So we mentioned Maastricht Housing. They have the UN Guest House. That's the official and Zoid housing agency. So Zoid students are also more than welcome at the Guest House, even though it's called the Guest House. It's a little bit misleading, but it's for students from both. And yeah, Maastricht Housing is a platform. So for finding housing in general, they have the Guest House, but you can also get properties that are offered by private landlords that just choose Maastricht Housing as their sort of rental agency. So to access sort of the offerings, you need to pay 35 euros. And I think a lot of people are sort of like, wary about it. Do I pay it? Is it worth it? Blah, blah, blah. I would say if you're staying in Maastricht for a bachelor's, so 3 years, it is definitely worth your while, because first of all, it's just a lot of offerings on there, and housing in Maastricht can get a little bit crazy, especially at the beginning of the academic year. So the more exposure you get to properties, the better, because you have more options to choose from. So that's already really useful. But also, the longer you're subscribed to Maastricht Housing, the more priority you have to get the better housing. So I'll tell you a little bit about the official social housing corporations, which are the next box. But basically, that's very affordable housing, sort of catering more to the student population, and you can only get to those through Maastricht Housing, and if you pay the 35 euro fee. Once you pay the fee, you're put in a list of all the people that have ever signed up to Maastricht Housing, and the higher you are on that list, being like the longer you're subscribed, the higher you are on that list, and the more priority you have for really nice housing. So think about it, and if you know you're coming to Maastricht, and if you know you'll want housing, which you will, consider paying the 35 euro fee and signing up. This is not our, like, we're not asked to say this. This is our genuine personal opinion. I'm signed up to Maastricht Housing. And yeah, it's really useful. So yeah, we spoke about the Guest House. Next are the social housing corporations. So this is just a Dutch thing. There's organizations that have properties that are subsidized by the government. So they have cheaper prices generally. Their practices are better. They're not for profit. In Maastricht, we have 3, Maasvallei, Servatius, and Woonpunt. And you can get some really nice studios that are not as expensive as what you would find from like a private agency, for example. But like we said, you need to be subscribed to Maastricht Housing for at least 2 years in order to be able to get to the better ones. But you can still find really nice rooms for around 300, 400 euros inclusive. And then you don't even need to be super high in the subscription round. So definitely keep your eye out. You'll see the logo of the housing corporations when a room is offered by them. So keep your eye out for those, because those are really good. Yeah, I think that's most about them, the housing ones. Then we have more the private sector. So first, your private landlords. These are people that just have a room or a house that they want to rent out. They can either do this on their own, like just directly with the students, or they can go through a rental agency. So we'll give you some tips on rental agencies in the next slide, I think. But the main way to find these more private properties are through Facebook, like the marketplaces. Also Perarius, this is a website that just shows you basically a list of offerings throughout the city. Kamernet does something quite similar. And there's a couple of others that are listed on our website. The one thing that we do say when it comes to private landlords, especially on things like Facebook, is that you're really careful, because you do get some people that just take advantage of the fact that people will sometimes look for housing not being in Maastricht, so they'll have to do the whole process online. And so, you know, some scams do happen sometimes. So just be a little bit careful and keep an eye out for the sketchier offerings. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's really like, okay, like most people that I know, it's split pretty half and half, people that go for the private stuff and people that go for Maastricht Housing and the Housing Corporation. So whichever one you choose and wherever you find housing will be fine. Just keep an eye out for the sketchier stuff. And then you have other options that are sort of in the middle. So you have Zior. This is like, yeah, university dorm, sort of a little bit more on the fancier side than the Guest House, owned by a private company. And they have like these massive complexes spread throughout the city, with rooms and studios. And it's a lot of students living in like massive buildings, very social environment. I know a couple of people that live there and are very happy there. So that's a good option. Then Maria mentioned the student hotel. Again, on the fancier side, you have the studios, but also you have like, I think you can get a room with a shared kitchen and showers and toilets. That's also there. But yeah, I think they offer gym membership and social events, and the facilities are really nice. So it is a little bit on the more expensive side, but definitely also a lot of people go for that. And then if you need a short-term solution, for example, your contract doesn't start until 2 weeks after you arrive in Maastricht or something like this, then you can look at the Stay OK. This is like a hostel/hotel that we have in the city, and it's also pretty decent for a short-term yeah, patch on the accommodation thing. So yeah, do we have any questions?
A lot. I think we're all trying to get to as many as possible. I think maybe you can talk a little bit about also options outside of Maastricht. What's your experience? What's your advice for Belgium, Aachen, or anywhere else?
Yeah, so a lot of people, because you know, the Maastricht, I don't know if you guys have read anywhere, but there is a little bit of a housing shortage. So you do have like students, especially the students that kind of wait until the last minute to find housing. They'll just be like, at the start of the academic year, they'll be scrambling around for something. A great option is to look for housing outside of Maastricht. This can be in a different Dutch city like Sittard, but also in Belgium and Germany. So Belgium is like a 15-minute bike ride just to cross the border. And Germany is, I think, a bit further away. I think you need to spend like an hour and a half on the train to get to Aachen, for example. Thomas, I don't know if that's correct, but I think it's around there.
Yes.
It is like a great option. There's no downside to it if you're from the EU. If you're not from the EU, then you have visa issues, because you'll probably get your visa for the place you study in. If you're studying in the Netherlands, then you have to live in the Netherlands. So keep that in mind. If you are an EU student and you don't have the whole mobility issue, you don't have a visa constraints, then definitely like it's a good option. Belgium and Germany tend to be cheaper to find housing than in Maastricht. Bear in mind that you will have to commute. But I would say that Maastricht University has a little bit less contact hours. I think with Zoid, it's the same. You don't have like the whole day where you're like in lectures or whatever. So commuting is doable for a lot of people. The only thing is that, for example, the information that we have on the website will not apply to you if you live in Belgium or in Germany. So the administrative things like subsidies that you might be eligible for in the Netherlands if you're living here will not be eligible for you if you live in a different country, of course. But yeah, I mean, I know people that live across the border, and it's a totally great option, and it is cheaper. So I don't know if you guys have anything to add.
No, I think in terms of living outside of Maastricht, that's it. Like Fran said, the housing market will become very crowded in August, September, because so many students are coming. But commuting is quite decent here, and for first period might be a very feasible option. Yeah. But definitely make sure to look for it early enough. There were a lot of questions about detailed questions about the guest house, about renting something as a couple or multiple people. If you have friends who or a partner with who you want to rent something, the private housing market offers a lot that you can either access via Maastricht Housing or the agencies that are here in Maastricht, which you can also find. But we cannot go in detail on certain policies that the individual organizations have.
Yeah, but there are options. It's just definitely start looking early, because if you need, for example, 4 rooms in an apartment, it might be a little bit more difficult. Usually you tend to find 2 rooms, I think, at least when I was looking. So just start looking in advance, and you'll have more of a chance to find what you're looking for.
Yeah. Somebody asks when they will be needed in Maastricht. So the academic year officially starts right after income. I think it's 27th of August. The introduction week will be 22nd to 26th of August, which we really recommend to take part in. The latest 1st of September, the academic year starts, but our recommendation would be to already find something for 1st of August. To be a bit earlier here and get to know the city.
Yeah, 1st of August, or maybe a week before. Say if you plan on participating in income, then ideally at least a week before income starts, for example, I would say, to be able to get everything sort of settled. But yeah, of course, the longer ahead you can be here, then the more chance you get to know the city. But yeah.
Okay, what is an
Oh, we're moving.
It's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so next thing is, so you've looked for housing, you found a couple of options that you like, and you've chosen one, and you're arranging with the landlord or the agency to get a contract. So these are some things that you should absolutely do. First of all, get a viewing. If it has to be online, so be it, of course, but really request it, ask them for a video viewing. If you can attend in person, all the better. Of course, we know that this is not possible for everybody, but definitely at least try to get an online viewing. When it comes to housing safety, really important. A lot of people, I think, overlook this, but the ideal standard is the Keurmerk. I'm sorry for my pronunciation.
Keurmerk, yeah.
Keurmerk Prettig Wonen. You can see the blue and black and white symbol on my right. Yeah, that's what you're looking for ideally, but as long as they have fire safety like extinguishers and smoke detectors and clearly marked fire exits, this is already a good sign. But you should really look out for safety standards. Then when it comes to signing the contract, you will probably get a Dutch contract. So you should get it translated. You can either send it to a proper translator if you don't speak Dutch, but you can also use DeepL. This is a really great website. You can just translate a whole document on there. A third alternative is to send it to the Her Team Zuid-Limburg. This is another organization funded by the university. We work alongside them. They will do contract checks for free. So they all speak Dutch, and a lot of them, I think, if not all of them, have a sort of legal background, so they can read through it and see if there's anything a little bit sketchy there and get back to you and tell you what's up. Bear in mind that if you're getting your contract in August or in July, when everybody's sort of sending Her Team their contracts, they might take a little bit to get back to you because there's a limited number of people and they have to read through the whole contract. So it might take them a while, but it is a great option. We will give you their email at the end, and we 100% recommend that you email them with any rental or housing related questions, especially if they're quite legal and if you're having any troubles. If you read through your contract and you're not happy, you can always try and reach out to your agency or landlord, see if you can negotiate the terms that you're not satisfied with. Unfortunately, landlords and agencies tend to be in a stronger position than renters when it comes to contracts, but you can always try, and you should always try and see if you can figure something out that works better for you. Another important thing are agency fees. So if you find housing that is offered by a rental agency, before you are able to actually get the housing, the agency might ask you to pay a certain fee, maybe like 200, 300 euros, because they technically brokered the rental agreement. So agency fees are actually illegal in the Netherlands for specific reasons, but most agencies will charge them, unfortunately. So we get the question, do we sign a contract even if we're getting asked for agency fees, which is an illegal practice? And what we usually say is that it's a little bit of a shitty situation, but if you find housing that you really like and the agency fee is not absurd, like you're not paying $1,000, but you're paying maybe 200 or something, then we would say that you should just, pay it, because if you don't get the housing there, you'll likely end up getting housing with another agency, and they will probably also charge you an agency fee. So the situation is kind of the same throughout. It's not fair. It is illegal, but it's a little bit of a weird situation. I don't know why no one's doing anything about it, but that's how it is. So this is our sort of vague advice. Yeah, you can always try and get a process started to get the agency fee back. It is possible. It's a little bit difficult. You can also ask the HER team about this. But yeah, this is the unfortunate reality. Lastly, we do have a page dedicated to rental contracts and red flags and just general sketchy things that should never happen when you're renting housing. It's on our website. It's called Rent. I think now it's been split into two. So one dedicated to a rental contract and the other one dedicated to scams and red flags. So read those up. They're really useful. A lot of informational tips for you to avoid nasty situations. So yeah, a lot of talking. Do we have questions or do we move on?
We have a lot of questions. We will try to answer as many as possible. Somebody asked, would you say finding a place for January is easier than for September? I definitely would say so. But I mean, if you're starting in September, because in January they're coming less students, and often it's the case that in August, September, many start and some drop out. And then the rental market or housing market will cool down a little bit.
Just actually, I meant to say before, but I forgot, but the guest house, I think their contracts are per month. So you can just stay there for a month. And if you happen to find housing, you can just leave it. And whereas a lot of contracts, when you rent from private landlords, they'll have like a minimum period of 6 or even 12 months. And if you leave before that period is over, then you'll have to pay a fine. So, or you'll have to end up paying the whole amount anyways. So definitely the guest house is also great for that.
Is asking that they're already searching since April, but they're having a hard time. And if we think that there will be new offers when the academic year ends during summer. Of
course, definitely. I mean, right now you're looking at a little bit of a strange time because, you know, the year is ending. So nobody's really dropping out and nobody's also leaving. So definitely, I would say it's still great that you're looking, because sometimes one day there's nothing new and then the next day there's like 20 new offerings. That's happened to me before. But there will be more options as the academic year ends, for sure.
Yeah, I think around July, August, you will see that the Facebook groups are full of announcements. Yeah.
As well, yeah.
Some people were asking about prices, but I think the next slide will answer that. I will go through all the questions and write down which we might then still answer.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we cover expenses in a little bit, so.
All right, so kind of to close a bit this housing section, there are some things you need to consider beforehand. So the first two are some questions that you may not think beforehand or not think they are important, but they really are, because when you sign the contract, you will see that maybe it's not what you expected or not what you were really looking for. So the first one is about the rent being inclusive or exclusive, meaning that it includes other things, not just the most basic rent, such as gas, electricity, internet, etc. So keep in mind that many landlords may be telling you that it's included, but when you see the contract, it is not. So that's an important thing to bear in mind. The second one is about furniture, furnished or unfurnished. So basically, you will see that many people, many agencies are offering studios or rooms that are not furnished. So also keep that in mind, that maybe an extra cost if you rent something that's not furnished. And then as kind of a summary of what we've talked about, these two things. First, keep in mind that a financial effort at the beginning, at least, because it's expensive, like the housing market is expensive, and at the beginning of your stay it will get more expensive or more pricey, because you will need to spend money in basic things such as basic food or pants or furniture even. So keep in mind that you need to have a budget, you need to plan everything ahead, so again you don't end up in a situation, kind of a difficult situation. And now, like the big question, when do I start looking? Should I start now in August? We always recommend to start as soon as possible. So for us, we want to say that start now, maybe not sign the contract now, like in May. It's not that necessary because as some of you were asking before, in July or June, many accommodations starts like I'm available. So we just think it's important to have an overview of the prices, the conditions, go to some Facebook group, go to some agency, goes to Maastricht housing, and kind of have this outline of everything that's in the market, and then you can make the decision. But I think it's important to keep in mind that there are many elements that you need to consider, and as soon as better. Any questions, or should we move on?
I was busy answering a lot of them. I think we would go to the next slide and then pick something up.
You're muted, Fran. Mute yourself.
Sorry. Okay, thank you. So yeah, on to jobs and living expenses. We often get the question, is it difficult to get a job? Is it possible to get a job? What are the requirements? We have a whole section on the website telling you exactly what you need, especially for non-EU students, what the requirements are for working permits and things like this, but also for EU students. Some basic things you should know is that you can get a job even if you don't speak Dutch. What we say is that Dutch is not required for a lot of jobs. Obviously, if you do speak it, then you have way more options, right? More doors are sort of open to you. And it's also really appreciated if you do learn some basic Dutch. So the university, I think Maastricht University offers free Dutch courses for first-year students, both at master's and bachelor's level. And I think if you're a Zoid student, you get discounts on the Maastricht University language courses, I believe. So yeah, you can learn Dutch for free if you're a student in your first year, and it's a great opportunity, and it will help you, especially if you plan on staying in the Netherlands for a few years. Student jobs are available, entry-level jobs with no work experience required. You can work in the hospitality sector. It's pretty big. A lot of people work at restaurants or in bars or food delivery, but you can also get other jobs like for the university, like Maria and myself. And yeah, non-EU students should know that they are limited to 16 hours a week due to their visa or to seasonal work. So again, this is more properly described on the website, but bear in mind that if you sort of are planning on getting a job and are planning on relying on an income from a job and you're an EU student, you have these limits on your working hours, which is very important. When it comes to expenses, to give you sort of a range, of course, it can be above, below, or in the middle, but we would say the average inclusive rent, so like Maria explained, inclusive is with gas, water, electricity, will be around 500 euros for a room, not necessarily in the center, but possibly. The range that you're looking at for rooms in general can be from 350 to 700 euros inclusive. So you can go as cheap as 350. I have known people that have found housing for 270 euros inclusive. It is possible, but don't bank on the fact that you might be able to find one of those because they are obviously in quite high demand. For monthly expenses that are not housing, so your groceries, maybe a gym membership or going out, we would also say you should budget for around 400 to 500. What I think is a great idea to see, for example, how much groceries might cost you for a week is to go on the Jumbo or Albert Heijn websites and just see how much food costs. And you can sort of make like a fake shopping cart online and see how much it would cost you for a week's worth of groceries, for example. And that's a great way to budget ahead. Last important thing is that you should definitely check our page for financial subsidies. There are quite a few of them. See if you're eligible and see what you would have to do to be eligible and to apply. While these are great sources of financial help, we also don't recommend that you rely on them. So always sort of prepare for the worst. So budget without thinking that you will be able to receive a subsidy, for example, but know that they exist and that you might be eligible for them.
Okay, I'm gonna quickly jump in with some more housing questions to wrap this topic a little bit up. Some people asked if it's better to choose for something that is either inclusive or exclusive gas, water, electricity, and how it is about furnished, unfurnished, where can you find it? What is your advice?
Okay, so better or worse for inclusive, exclusive? Bear in mind, if it is exclusive, so gas, water, and electricity are not included, you will have to go and arrange those contracts yourself. So you'll have to go and ask for quotation and for things like this. And every month you will have to take charge of paying those bills separately yourself. There's also a whole kind of, to me at least, it was a strange process where, for example, say you arrange for a contract for gas, they will give you sort of an estimate amount that you have to pay per month. And then at the end of the year, they'll actually, because houses have like a meter for how much gas you actually consume. So at the end of the year, the company that you contracted with will tell you, okay, you actually consumed less than what we've been charging you, or you actually consumed more than what we've been charging you. And then you'll have to either pay them more money or they'll pay you back some money. So it's a little bit more complicated, I think, if you, if you do it yourself. If it's inclusive, then you have to bear in mind that your contract has to be very, very specific about what you're paying for what. So again, on the website, we talk about this in depth, but basically your contract can't just give you one lump sum. You can't just say 500 euros and you don't know what out of that 500 euros goes to gas, goes to water, goes to electricity. You have to know how much you're paying per month in electricity, gas, water, and in the basic rent, which is just the rent for the property without any additional stuff. So read up on the website because this is really important. And yeah, it's very illegal for the landlord to just charge you one lump sum without specifying what is included or how much. For what.
Generally, I think it's when you're living close to Maastricht already, like in Germany, Belgium, it might be a good option to take an exclusive contract. It's easier to arrange. Often you would take over contracts from the previous tenants. But if you're from further away, it's more difficult. And then inclusive is a safer option, and you can still then, after time, maybe move to something from the private market that has exclusive prices. We also got something about pets. How is there anything they need to be aware of? How easy is it if you want to bring a pet?
It depends on your contract and your landlord. You'll have to see. But yeah, some places allow, a lot of places don't. So
I
just
think the majority of places do not allow,
yeah.
Unfortunately.
Housing, it can already be difficult enough in Maastricht. If you have to, on top of that, look for housing that will let you keep a pet, you might have to look quite hard, I would say. Yeah.
We got a lot of questions about rent allowance, so huurtoeslag, but seeing the time, I think we will move a little bit further and maybe at the end pick up some more questions.
Yeah, cool.
All right, so community and lifestyle, more in the funny side. So yeah, keep in mind that like Maastricht, as is said in every portal and everywhere, it's a student city, is full of like student related activities. So what do you find when you come to Maastricht? You will find many student oriented activities, bars, restaurants, many things to do. It's really like culturally really diverse, it's rich in everything. So I think you will never have like no plans. There's always something, there's always some place to go. It's really cool if you like to go out. And also check our community section in mymaastricht.nl, because we have a community and also sports section. And there are all the students associations that are in Maastricht. You will see that we have many of them. And I'm sure that whatever your hobbies are, you will find a student association dedicated to that. So yeah, check that. It's a really good opportunity to meet people, to do some sports, but not only about sports, there are about many things. So it can be of whatever your interests are. And then if you really like sport, I think one of the best options is swim sports, which is offered by the university. It's really cheap and you get like a huge offer of activities, different time slots. So you will very easily get access to do some sport there, and the facilities are also quite good. And then do you want to say something about Kaleido? Or?
I mean, yeah, Kaleido is just, I believe it's a community, like sort of a student organization. They organize a lot of cultural, social events, a lot of artsy events, I would say. I think there's poetry nights and comedy nights, and I think it's a huge organization and it's very easy to make friends. So I think a lot of students opt for that. No?
Yeah, somebody also asked that they are not able to attend Income, how difficult will it be for them to find friends, or is that an issue?
It won't be difficult. as we said, like it's full of students everywhere. Many people do not have the chance to go to income, and they still have friends and will like everywhere, like in the faculty or maybe at your student house or at these student organizations. So you really have the chance to meet new people, even though you're not able to come to income. So I think it's not a problem. Of course, if you go to income, this process is kind of speed up, but yeah, I don't think there's any problem with that.
Does the university have a gym? I think you just actually mentioned that with the sport, or?
Yeah, Sports, yeah. I mentioned it.
There are other gym options as well, all to find on our map. Sport just has the biggest, most included offer and dedicated student things. Also, all the sports organizations are connected to Sport membership. So that would be our main recommendation.
Yeah, all the gyms are also on our sports page, as well as if you're interested in something specific like rowing, for example, you can check out all the different associations and organizations that do dedicated sports.
Yeah, and also on Instagram we have an up-to-date list of what are like the top sports centers or like fitness studios for students, so you can also check it there.
Any more questions, or we move on?
Plenty, but I think we will, some are also repetitive, but we will continue and then in the end pick some more up.
All right, regarding transport, so just to like the small details, if you want to know more, for sure, go to our website and there's everything further explained. But just to keep in mind, first about bikes. So as you would know, the Netherlands is really cycling and bike friendly. So everywhere you go and everyone you meet has a bike and is going by bike to every place in the world. So yeah, as we said before, the map is Maastricht as such is really small. So if you have a bike, you will get from one side to the other in, I guess, less than 15 minutes. So once you own a bike and you get your hands into a bike, it's easy to move to another part of the river, for example, to the other. And then, yeah, just keep in mind that there are some rules that you need to, of course, follow, that there are some norms in the road. You also need, for example, to have working lights, and you can get a fine if you do not so, or if you park your bike in the wrong place. So just check our website, that there are like a few guidelines that you must follow before going with your bike and just start doing weird things. So because I guess Dutch people get really annoyed because of that. So yeah. And then regarding public transport, so we have the OB chip card, which is this like a card you can get your credit top up, and then you put money there and travel from Maastricht to everywhere. If you want to move within Maastricht, we recommend buses. So we have I think a great offer of buses and bus lines. But as we said before, it's not really necessary. But I think it's always good to have an OB chip card, so you can also like get in a train, visit some places in the Netherlands. You may need to go to the airport at some point or visit some city that's near Maastricht, but you need to get a train. So I think it doesn't hurt to have an OB chip card, and then if you use it well, or if you don't use it that much, it's also, I think, worth it, because you get an offer and yeah, you can buy it in many places. So that's all.
Just to clarify, you can still get a bus or even a train ticket without an OB chip card. It's just cheaper. And also, I think you don't get the individual paper tickets, so it's technically better for the environment if you just get an OB chip card. And I don't think they cost too much. And
no, I think it's between 8 and 10 euros
or something. Yeah.
People ask, where will they be able to find the bike when they come here?
We have sections on the website telling you like different options, but Facebook is a big one. Facebook marketplaces, especially at the beginning of the academic year when people are leaving, a lot of people are just buying bikes. So the market might also be a little bit like in demand. There might be a lot of demand for bikes, so it might be a little bit more expensive. You can also opt for like a rental, like a Swapfiets kind of subscription, which is a good option if you want to just not really have to worry too much about your bike. So basically you pay a monthly amount, they give you a bike. If it breaks or whatever, you just send it back to them, they fix it up for you and they give it back to you, and it's quite convenient. There are some bike stores in the city itself, so you can also get either secondhand or new bikes. And I think those are the main options. Thomas, you're in-house bike expert. I don't know if you can add anything.
No, I think you summarized it very well. I think there are very good bike shops here in the city that offer fair prices, and for the rest, the online market, we link to great options, Facebook groups, but also websites that have have a marketplace for secondhand bikes on our website. So definitely check that out. Somebody asked how serious is stealing. We mentioned that earlier. Bike theft, I think, is the most common crime. So make sure to get a decent log, store it somewhere where it's a bit more light and not the darkest corner. And also in Maastricht, sometimes the bike actually didn't get stolen, but it got taken away because you parked it wrong. So if you get a bike, know where to park it. There are 2 underground parking stations in the city. And just make sure that it's not in the way, so that you don't hinder people who are on foot or maybe even have disabilities. Because then this municipality will take it away and you have to pay 25 euros to get it back.
And I'd like to add that keep in mind that if you buy it in some Facebook group, it may be like stolen bikes. So just bear in mind that can happen. Yeah, check before. Yeah. Or like if you see that's like a weird account selling many bikes, that's probably a bike that was before in Amsterdam. So.
Yeah. And buying a stolen bike can technically go on your permanent record here. So even if you didn't know it was stolen. So yeah, that's true. Watch out. So yeah, cool. Then we move on.
Yes.
Hey. Okay, so very important topic, health insurance. In the Netherlands, it's actually a legal requirement to have valid health insurance. So this is really important that you guys check beforehand. Otherwise, you might receive a fine. Basically, it really kind of depends on where you're from. So if you're not from an EU country, what we recommend is that you contact your current supplier, your provider, and see if they cover you in the Netherlands and what they cover you exactly and how the whole process would be. If you're currently not insured, then you can look into international or private insurances once you're in the Netherlands and take one out. If your insured doesn't cover you, then you should also either switch to a package that does cover you or just switch your provider in general. UM's official recommendation is AON student insurance for non-Dutch students, and you can just take that out once you're here. But you should definitely do that within the first month of being here. It's really important. EU students usually have their European health insurance card, and you will not run into legal trouble if you're just staying in the Netherlands with this insurance. It's enough for you to not receive a fine from the Dutch government. But we still ask that you please check with your national insurance provider what this covers you when you're abroad in the EU, because sometimes it might be different from what you're covered at home, or it could be less than what you need, and then you might be obliged to take out supplementary health insurance. So on our website, again, it's discussed in a little bit more detail with a little bit more information about the legal requirements and what happens if you don't have valid health insurance, and you might receive a letter and how to deal with that letter. So at the bottom, you have the logos from the CAK and the SVB. So these are organizations that sort of track whether people are insured or not. So we explain what they do and the letters and everything. Another important thing with health insurance is that if you do plan on getting a job, then you will be legally obliged to take out Dutch public health insurance. Again, this is explained on the website, what it is, how to take it out. But what you should know is that, you should do this the moment you sign your contract with your employer. And that if you don't, again, you can receive a fine. But once you do take out the Dutch health insurance, you can apply for a subsidy to cover most, if not all, of the cost. So it's called Zorgtoeslag. It's on our finances section under financial support. And the whole process for applying is there. It's quite easy. Just check that you're eligible for it. And if you are eligible, then it's a very, very smooth process. So don't be scared that you won't be spending all your money on your insurance when you're here. Any questions?
Not specific to health insurance. Some people ask what it costs, for example. Maybe you can
cost for health insurance?
Yes, if you have to take.
I mean, it depends, I think, on what you're getting. I'm only familiar with the cost of Dutch public health insurance because I work. And there, I think the most basic package costs around 90 euros. And you can get Zorgtoeslag for around, I believe, 100 euros. And it will cover all of it. But then you can obviously, this is the most basic package. It covers basically nothing. I think you can range all the way up to 150, 200 euros for Dutch public health insurance. That includes dental and physio and intensive care and things like this. But there's a really good comparison websites on our website. We link to them, and then you can sort of check all the different providers and their offerings, and it's quite easy to find out the different prices. So.
Yeah, and the main takeaway is that you should check what your insurance from home covers, and if it doesn't cover enough, for example, often when you're from outside the EU, you need to take out dedicated insurance. The ISH can help you with it. They recommend Aon student insurance, but if you have the question, you can turn to them directly. Was there another question? And if you're, no matter if you're a new student or non-EU student, if you do get a job in the Netherlands, then you will require Dutch health insurance, which you then again can apply for Zorgtoeslag to not have really little costs, and sometimes even get money back for your insurance.
Even if you do a paid internship, you have to get insurance. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, next slide.
Right, so approaching to the end, these are the key takeaways that you should remember and keep in mind. So first of all, as we just mentioned, do your research, have an overview of everything that's been offered, know what's and how is the housing market in Maastricht, and figure out what you want. So basically, as we said before, ask those questions about furniture, about the contract being inclusive or not, and then you will be able kind of to move on from that starting point. And Fran, you want to follow?
Yeah, so the next thing, which I think is one of the most important, is to start looking for housing as soon as possible, meaning ideally now. And the start can be just reading up on our website, like the information that you need to know. That's already a great start. And last is to check health insurance requirements, ideally before you arrive, because it will just make your life so much easier. And yeah, obviously to have fun. Maastricht is an amazing city, and we hope that you enjoy it. It's super international, super welcoming. Everybody is incredibly nice, and we think that you will have an amazing time here. So that's that.
All right,
Yes.
so
María, you still first go, then we go to the questions.
yeah, exactly. We can like finalize with this. So this is basically an overview of all of our contacts and social media. So make sure you check out our different pages on Instagram, on Facebook, and YouTube. We are quite active, and we're always posting not only substantial information such as housing, taxes, etc., but also social life related. So I think it's like must for you to follow my Maastricht, not because I run them, but it's really useful if you are coming. And then, yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to send an email to Fran or to me. That there are our emails. And we also have a WhatsApp, so maybe it's easier for you to just send a text message, and we will also be happy to answer there. And now this is big news. We have a new Spotify channel, a new Spotify podcast, and we are going to upload some podcasts about life in Maastricht, about all of our sections, about housing, etc. And we have our first chapter already published, and maybe Fran can do like a summary of the podcast.
Yeah, so our first podcast was mostly about locations to get you started in Maastricht. So myself and another colleague of ours, his name is Zia, a Dutch dude, really cool guy. We just discuss our favorite places in Maastricht to go out for a drink or for lunch or just for a night out, as well as things like house parties and what's legal and what isn't. So definitely check it out. I think I just recently learned this. You can scan the code, but you have to do it within Spotify. I felt like a grandma. Maria had to explain it to me. And then, yeah, the episode is there, so you can listen to my voice again. Maria, did you mention that the emails by the ISH and her team, or yeah?
Yeah, you want to.
Okay, just to check. Yeah, so we have the ISH email. So Judith and Lisa are both from the ISH, and that's their email. If you have any specific questions, for example, health insurance for your particular requirements, you can always reach out to them. And then we talked about her team, the contract checking and all the help with the rental agreement. That's their email there as well, info@herteam Zoid-Limburg. Don't be shy, reach out to them. They're there to help you. So
yeah. We don't really just want to plug our social media. But it's really worth it, because we will in the next month always publish information that is relevant for you at these moments. So now we put a lot of focus on housing, because this is the most important thing right now. You need to make sure you understand the housing market in Maastricht, so that you find something where you feel happy and safe and have a good price that you can afford. And later, we will tell more about maybe health insurance or finding a bike. And yeah, that's the best way we will stay up to date. What did I want to say? This episode will be available within the next days on YouTube. So if you missed parts of it, you can watch it back there. What else did I wanted to say? We maybe can pick up a couple of other questions. For example, somebody asked.
I just realized that we forgot to put our TikTok account. So also, if you're a TikTok users, we kind of publish there the funny part of Maastricht, all the traveling and all the social environment. So also make sure to check it. It's also at mymaastricht, the same as Instagram. So yeah. Easy.
A couple more questions. Somebody asked about rental loans, huurtoeslag. Fran, can you maybe quickly explain again what it is and who is eligible for it?
Yeah, so huurtoeslag kind of depends on the property that you're renting and how much it costs, and whether it's in the private or social sector. It depends on your income, and it depends on your age. And I believe, obviously, you have to be a valid resident. I don't think you have to be an EU resident, like an EU national. Basically, if your accommodation is independent, meaning that you have a door and behind that door is your bathroom, your kitchen, and your room, then you might be eligible for huurtoeslag if the basic rent that you're paying is underneath a certain amount, which I think is around 720, 730 euros. If you have a room that is not independent, so it's just one bedroom and you share a kitchen, bathroom with other people, then you have to be paying around, I think it's less than 430 euros. So the requirements are on our website on huurtoeslag, again, in our finance section, and it's properly explained there. I haven't checked it in a while, so I don't remember the requirements too well, but it's very clearly explained there. And there's also a guidance document telling you how to apply for it. So definitely check that out. But yeah, it is usually mostly eligible for social housing. So we covered it before, Maasvallei, Servatius, and Woonpunt. For these accommodations, usually you are eligible for huurtoeslag, but for private housing, it's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, we got a lot of questions about income. It's the introduction week for all arriving students. They will organize great events, parties, cultural activities, an information market where we also will be. So come by to our stand and say hello, as well as movie nights and everything, a tour through the city. So this is in the week 22nd to 26th of August, followed by the introductory week, which are organized by the faculties, where you will learn about how your faculty looks like, and things you need to know about where everything is and the program and the systems that are used. So we would recommend sign up. You meet really great people at INCOM and make very often good friends with who you later might live with or just become great friends with. And we also got a question about, do you need a Dutch bank account or a Dutch phone number?
Good question. I would again say this depends on what you already have. So I know a lot of Europeans that keep their home country's number because, free roaming and all that stuff, and it doesn't really change anything. With bank accounts, I think the important thing is that you have an IBAN. So if you have a single European payments area bank account, a SEPA account, you should be fine as well. For non-EU students, I think it's mostly where it matters most, because you'll likely have a foreign phone number, so it's going to be super expensive and not worth it, and a foreign bank account, so transferring money and paying here might come with extra fees that are just unnecessary. So again, we discussed this topic on the website. Should I open a Dutch bank account? Should I get a Dutch mobile number? If you want to read up on that, it might be useful for you. I would say as a general rule, Europeans don't have as much of a pressure to do so. Non-Europeans might if you're not already possessing a European phone number and Dutch bank account.
Yeah, some people ask also about BSN. How do they get it if they will be living in Belgium, for example? We will also give, by the way, presentations during the intro days where we'll go way more in detail about everything you need to know during the first 3 months when arriving here. So definitely join these as well. A BSN you will get when you're coming to Maastricht and then sign up with the municipality. And in Belgium, you will get your corresponding number in the municipality that you need to register there. So in that sense, you will of course also not be eligible to apply for the same subsidies in the Netherlands.
Yeah. We do have our intro days. So the presentation that Thomas was talking about for the first few months in Maastricht, we have some recorded and on our YouTube. So if you already want that information, definitely check those out. It's called My Maastricht Intro Days. And yeah, it's all the information you might want about registering and things like that.
Yeah. Maybe Fran and María, you can also quickly scan through the questions if you still want to pick something up. Again, our biggest plaidoyer is that you start doing your research now. Our website has really a lot of information. It will cost you an hour or two to really read the most important things, especially about housing right now. Make your notes, get an overview of the city, of where your faculty will be, what kind of housing you want and what you can afford. And then when you can arrive here, and then look for some housing and check the contract and then find that first to feel safe about that. The rest will definitely come over time, and stay following us and we will provide you with more info during the next month and beyond. Fran, María, did you find something you wanted to answer?
I'm reading.
Would you come back early from vacation to join income? I would say yes. I think they're really improving every year. It's a great program they're arranging. Yeah, you meet just great people, and that helps to settle in the city. The first 3 months are the most complicated ones because everything is new, but it's really a beautiful city. I'm here for 10 years and I still love it. And income can be a great start, because if you have the right social contacts and you learn a lot about the city, of everything works, then I would not want to miss it.
I see one here about living in Belgium but working and studying in Maastricht. If you will run into any problems, absolutely not. Well, again, it depends on you. If you are not an EU student and you have a visa, then you're sort of restricted by that. But if you're an EU student, then there's no problem. If you work in the Netherlands, you will have to look into, for example, taxes and health insurance. You'll still have to get health insurance, but you won't run into any problems. Just do a little bit of research. It's all covered on the website, so you'll be fine.
Yeah. Where somebody asks if you pay taxes as a student, you pay, depending on your housing situation, certain taxes, but I would not worry about this right now. We will cover information on this later on. These taxes will be collected always at the beginning of the calendar year, so around February, March, and we will provide more information on that. Mostly it's per household, and then you can share it with your other housemates. Nothing to worry right now. If you have a job, you also will need to pay taxes, but mostly it's very easy process in the Netherlands. Except you have multiple jobs, then there are some things you might consider, but nothing to worry for now. Anything else?
I see something about the student discount with the OV chip card, and I think that depends on the student travel product, right? So yeah, yes, like there are some requirements that you need to meet in order to apply for it and be entitled to this free travel product, let's say.
If you have more specific questions, don't hesitate to contact us via WhatsApp or the ISH via the email, or also Fran and María via the email. We collaborate closely, and if we can't answer that, then they will help you. Judith and Lisa, do you have anything you still want to pick up or add?
Not really. I do think we also have a Facebook page on which you can reach us, and I think we're still answering some questions that are still open, but I hope we helped you already a little, and you at least are a bit more confident coming to Maastricht now.
Nice. Can you find a student job without speaking Dutch? I think, yes, you can. It is an advantage to speak Dutch, but there will be plenty of jobs, not only at the university, but also like, yeah, in bars, cafes, restaurants, or anything else. Like there's a lot of like career for like by career, or like bringing food, or a lot of other examples where you don't need to speak Dutch. You will find the recording on our YouTube channel, but we'll also post something on our social media about it. So keep these inside. That last one made me smile. How do you get the free bus transport? Usually you have to be eligible for studiefinanciering, where as a non-Dutch student, you have to work for 14 hours a week, and then you will be eligible for free public transport. Fran, correct me if I'm wrong. As a Dutch student, it's easier, but there are reductions for prices for students.
I'm trying to remember the requirement. This is for Duo, right?
Yeah, if you have studiefinanciering, then you will get.
Yeah, but it's really, really difficult. Also, there was a question about Duo studiefinanciering for non-EU students. I think non-EU students are not eligible, but even EU students that are not Dutch, it's very, very difficult to get it. So yeah, don't bank on that.
Yeah. What kinds of jobs are available in the university? Well, things like what Fran and María are doing at projects here, or just at student assistance, as somebody asked, where we'll do support the professors with certain smaller tasks.
Yeah, I know they are looking for people to work in the library. So maybe check that out.
Yeah, but probably for the people here attending, not yet sitting, but most rental dates start around June. What to do if you want housing from August, but there are barely any available. Tough choice. I think June is very early. Maybe July, August, you could consider if it's a very good deal, because it's better to have a good housing for maybe a little bit cheaper, but then pay 1 month extra than waiting too long and not finding anything, or finding something that is of bad quality price ratio. And you have a safer feeling about that you have found something.
There's one about if you're an EU citizen, but you never lived in the EU, can you get an EHIC? This really depends. You have to like sort of get in touch with an embassy of your EU country. If you come to the Netherlands and you get a job and you get the Dutch public health insurance, then that is technically like an EHIC. But it just depends. You have to touch and getting in contact with the counselor, like the, what's it, not the council. What's the word? Not embassy, the other one. Consulate, this one, the consulate or the embassy of your country.
And income is not for free, it's a one-time fee. I don't know exactly how much you have to pay to sign up for income, but
like 70 euros or something.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things included, parties, food and drink vouchers. Yeah, it's worth it. We have answered that. That one. Anything else? Otherwise, I would suggest we wrap it up.
Not for me. Just thank everybody for coming. And we hope you guys enjoyed and got all the information you needed and wanted.
Yeah. And for all the other questions, don't hesitate to contact us via the information that's on your screen right now. Maybe make a screenshot that you don't forget. And otherwise on YouTube, you'll find the episode. Thanks for joining. You made the right choice to look at Maastricht. I bet you will have a great time here. And yeah, visit our website and follow us and see you around.